Logan is doing some research on his tartan he's looking at getting, and he
Cool.
came across the Wilsons of Bannockburn color. He
Nice.
wants to know, who are the Wilsons of Bannockburn?
Who
They,
are
they
the
had a couple of hits
famed?
back in the 70s, but yeah.
Wilsons of Bannockburn was I don't know if I think it was the biggest mill. I'll go out on a limb and say the biggest mill back in the 1800s, mid 1800s at least.
I think they go back as far as the late
They probably
18th century.
Yeah, they probably go
Yeah.
back. They go back further than that, but by the time of the mid 1800s, they were the biggest mill. They had their own specific. Every mill has their own color palette. Wilson's Bannockburn and the modern, ancient, weathered, muted color palettes kind of have evolved, and that is currently the options that each customer has. But Wilson's Bannockburn was a huge mill, and they had effectively, I don't want to say one shade of green and one shade of blue or whatever, but they had a standard color palette like most mills did. So you'll actually see on occasion a mill do kind of a throwback, and they'll do a Wilson's Bannockburn colorway, where it'll be and the basic difference between a Wilson's Bannockburn color and a traditional modern color is this: modern color palette for tartans. You have red is like a scarlet red, blue is a navy blue, green is like a beer bottle dark green, yellow is a bold yellow, that kind of thing. For Wilson's Bannockburn, they used navy blue, they used scarlet red, they used the bold yellow, but for the green color, they used a what I would term like a muted green, like an olive kind of color green. So it's kind of, in today's speak, it's a mixture of muted and modern, like let's say 60-70% modern, 30% muted, but it gives a different coloring to the tartan. That was just their colors. That's just what they did. It's the mill's preference on, this is the green that we are going to use, this is the blue we are going to use, this is the red we are going to use, and having a single shade of red, single shade of blue, single shade of green will be cost effective, so you can weave a whole different bunch of different tartans from the same colorways. It just, economies of scale. You can order more green yarn in the same color.
Right.
What was his actual question? Now that I've kind of rambled.
I think you want to know where it came from.
Who are
was
they?
it?
Yeah.
Basically, it's just a really big mill from the early to mid 1800s, and potentially before. They are now defunct. They no longer exist. They're an artifact. They had a lot of tartans, and a lot of the tartans that exist today are from their pattern books. They kind of carried forth before the Tartan Register, before the Scottish Tartans Authority, before the Scottish Tartan Society.
Before the Sovietskis. Their samples predate the Sovietskis.
I think it was around the same time.
I think they're earlier.
We'll check that. But it's around the same time. It overlaps. At very,
It definitely overlaps. Yes.
But there's a lot of things that are like that was. There wasn't a cataloging of the tartans. The mills were the catalog, or the Sobieski Stewarts, who some people will just call straight up con men. Other people will call con men, but with
Innovators.
purpose. Yeah, innovators. Thank you. That's kind of how tartans got enshrined and carried forth and didn't change their patterns. They became standardized because of Wilson's Bannockburn specifically, and because of the Sobieski Stewarts, where they kind of put it on wax, so to speak, and said, "This is the MacDonald tartan, period. Here you go." And then the clan chief MacDonald might say, "Okay, yep, looks great. That's the official Clan MacDonald tartan," or whatever. And it kind of just became enshrined that way. But they are a very, very important piece of the puzzle going back in tartan history.
Yeah. I think, and that's one of the main reasons you might want to consider it, basically, in my opinion, is that basically it feels like you're in touch with that portion of the history when you choose that palette. You have a little bit more of a legend in the back of your mind because of what you've chosen, because it's like, wow, this is a connection to 200 plus years ago. I personally like the palette a lot. I tend to describe it a little bit as being kind of like jewel tone. So if you think you're drawn to muted tartans, or you know, that kind of deep, rich kind of color, I would say it's a really beautiful option. I really like your Stuart. Yeah, I love that. I love that kilt. But
Strathmore, there's a one in the mills over in Scotland. They do 3 or 4. I know they do Grant and Stuart Old, and I think they do 1 or 2 others in Wilsons of Bannockburn colors. So we have made them before. There's a couple that are stock options, but not too many. A lot of time you're going to have to end up with a custom weave, but it's neat because it's different than everything else that's out there. And to Eric's point, it's a talking point. It's something that kind of gives you a connection to the past in a way that just buying a stock tartan can't do.
Yeah.
So, unless it's one of those from Strathmore.
Right.
Yeah, it's a neat way to honor the past, but live in the present.
Yeah, it's not any more legitimate or illegitimate than any tartan from any mill. It's just, but it's got a cool factor.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.